first give honor to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who one day lifted me up from the dregs of degradation and set me down on a solid rock, established my goings and my comings, giving honor to the First Lady, First Daughter, all the Access Missionary Outreach family, our visitors and friends. We greet you with Jesus' joy. There's a word from the Lord, and I want us to look to the book of Genesis, the 37th chapter that was read in your hearing. I'll be reading from the New King James Version. 37th chapter, beginning at the 18th verse. When you found it, say amen. Amen. Still looking, say hold on. 37th chapter, book of Genesis, beginning at the 18th verse. Start there. Now, when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, look, this dreamer is come. Come, therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams then. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands. This part you got to get. And bring him back to his father. Yo, did y'all get that? Let me see that again. But that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. Now, let's move to the 42nd chapter, beginning at the 6th verse. Y'all got time this morning? Now Joseph was governor. See that? Now Joseph was governor over the land. Just was in the pit, y'all. Now he's governor over the land. And it was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke roughly to them. Then he said to them, where do you come from? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. That's all we'll have time for. Let us take our seat. And I'm going to use for subject this morning, God has a plan for you. God has a plan for you. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor. Neighbor. Oh, neighbor. Oh, neighbor. God has a plan for you. Turn to somebody else if they didn't hear you and say, neighbor. Neighbor. Hey, neighbor. Neighbor. God has a plan for you. Let us pray. Dear eternal, never blessed God, we ask that you bless the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart. Oh Lord, my strength and my redeemer. And Lord, help me not so much to preach a good sermon, but one that will do some good, so that the body of Christ may be edified by having heard it preached. In the glorious name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. God has a plan for you. And I know that some of us sitting in the seats we're in and coming from the various backgrounds we've come from and looking at the things that we've gone through in life, the ups and downs, sometimes even with the ground, it's hard to believe that God has a plan for us. Everywhere you turn is drama. On your left, drama. On your right, you come home, it's drama. You go to work, it's drama. Drama in church, drama everywhere you turn. And sometimes you find yourself right in the midst of it and wonder, how does God have a plan for me? I'm struggling to pay bills. I heard somebody this morning say, I just got laid off from my job. What am I going to do? How is it that God can have a plan for me? And somebody else said, well, I got to reckon I come from the wrong side of the tracks. And I've got 3 strikes against me already. I've had alcohol problems. I've had drug problems. And yet I'm still struggling. How is it that God can have a plan for me? I'm going through some stuff right now as I sit in the pew this morning. Don't know which way, don't know how things going to turn out come into the week. I'm tired with all kinds of bills. The bill collectors is knocking on my door. How is it? In the midst of all of this, that God can have a plan for me. I like what the black bard poet Langston Hughes said. He said, life has been no crystal staff. And I mean, life is full of troubles. And Word of God says that in this world you're going to have tribulation and you're going to have trouble. But be of good cheer, because I've overcome the world. That woman, y'all know her, Mary J. Blige. Y'all got time for this? Here, she's a Grammy Award winner. Now, her picture has graced the cover of magazines. She's on commercials and what have you. But yet, all the turmoil, the money she's had, she could not understand why she was experiencing so much drama in her life. And she began to take control, and she said, I'm going to write a song. And she wrote a song called No More Drama. Y'all heard that? You know, and no more pain, no more drama. You know, and I'm not one of those name and claim it preachers, but sometimes you got to name and claim certain things in your life. And she took control and said, no more pain, no more drama. And sometimes we've got to take control and see that and speak peace into our own lives. And say, no more drama. I'm fed up. I'm through. And no more pain. And then sometimes some of us would rather lay down when we get knocked down in life and dare to get back up. I was reading somewhere where Joe Louis, the fighter, he was fighting this fella named Keith Galanto. And he hit him with a left hook. Knocked him out, knocked him down. And he bounced back up, started fighting again. When he finally got to the ring, the trainer said, look here, Joe, I told you, as long as I've been training you, I told you to hold out and stay down to the 9 count. Stay down to 9. You don't stay down. You just got to stay down. All your training, I've taught you. You know what I'm saying? You don't jump back up. You stay down to 9. Joe said to him, he said, shoot, you think I'm going to let him get all that rest? You know what I'm saying? No, I got to give it. And sometimes we got to say it. We can't let the enemy, once he's knocked us down, let him take time is Joseph in the Bible here. And don't I tell you, let me pull Joseph's file from the file cabinet, if you will. Joseph here has come from a dysfunctional family, y'all. But yet God is still with him. Joseph's daddy was a rolling stone. He had children by 4 different women. A love in front, a love behind, a love on in his arms, and a love on his mind. You understand? That his daddy. You understand? And his siblings, his brothers, hated him because his daddy loved him so much until he made him a coat of many colors. And in the Hebrew, if a coat was made of colors and it had all of these ornaments, it signified the favor of God. And because they felt that Joseph had God's favor on him, they hated him. His brothers hated him because he flaunted. He flashed the coat of many colors. He flashed his favor. Y'all, let me stop here. And sometimes we too that have been blessed with favor of God. Sometimes we handle our favor immaturely. Sometimes we mishandle the favor of God, the favor that God has blessed us with. Joseph didn't know how to be humble in his young age with favor. He didn't know how to talk with favor. He didn't know how to walk in humility with favor. Sometimes we like to flash our favor. We've got to flaunt our favor. Sometimes we don't know what to say, and we allow others to think that God has favored nobody else but us. We allow others to think that God ain't feeding nobody but us. We allow others to think that God ain't sheltering nobody but us. We allow others to think that God ain't putting clothes on nobody's back but ours. We allow others to think that God ain't blessing nobody but us to drive a nice automobile. We flaunt our favor and sometimes intimidate others because we don't know how to handle the favor of God. And we manipulate others to thinking that they can never be where we are. And we got it and they don't. And God has blessed us in such a special way where you'll always be here and I'll always be there. And then we wonder why the haters come along. We wonder why folk want to throw us in the pit. Somebody better hear me this morning. Want to know why folks always bothering me, picking on me. Could be the way you might be mishandling your favor. You know what I'm saying? And favor is something that you don't deserve. It's something that God gives you. But just as God has given you it, you can allow the enemy to take it away from you. You understand? And if the enemy can take away your favor, he can take away your dream. He can take away your vision. You don't got time for this. You understand? But you got to be careful how you wear your favor. And you don't wear it on your sleeve. But Joseph, being young and immature, early age went and flaunted the favor of God. Fellas, guess what? I had a dream about y'all and about me too. And my dream, we were all, I had sheaves, and my sheep was standing over here, and yours was over there, and your sheaves was bowing down to my, see, and then you can't tell everybody your dream. You can't tell everybody about the favor or the vision that God has given you. Sometimes you, especially prematurely, before God is ready for you to tell it to somebody, you got to shut your mouth. Sometimes you got to be quiet until God brings it to fruition. And some of us don't know how to handle favor and wonder why we find ourselves in the pit. And because they did not, Joseph did not know how to handle the favor of God. He found himself, y'all look at that, let me get you to another way. Did y'all see the movie American Gangster with Frank Lucas? And do you remember that Frank Lucas lived by a certain code, a street code? But he was doing fine to live conservatively and moderately. He didn't dress, you understand, flashy. He didn't wear a lot of blame to bring any attention to his favor. You understand? But once he allowed his wife to talk him into wearing a chinchilla coat to a boxing match, he threw the coat out the window and went to the boxing match with a chinchilla coat on and bling and hat and whatnot. And there was a detective in the crowd looking for mobsters and what have you by the name of Detective Roberts. He was just looking around and caught notice of Frank Lucas in his chinchilla coat and bling and began to investigate him and thereby brought about his demise. Favor, he broke code and flowed. I'm just putting it in your lap so you get to it. All right. Joseph found himself in the pit, but his brother, older brother Reuben, the other said, "Here comes the dream. Let's kill it." And some folks want to kill you because of your dream. They want to kill you off, and they don't want to see your dream. They don't want to see your vision come to fruition. Because if it does, that means that they missed the boat. So suddenly, here Joseph had to learn some lessons and found himself in a pit. And sometimes in life, regardless of whether you're flaunting your coat of many colors, or whether you're talking or whether you're doing something wrong, sometimes we find ourselves in pits. You understand? Where the pit of innuendos, the pit of gossip, the pit of low self-esteem, we find ourselves in various pits in life. And wonder, how does God have a plan for my life? Understand this. Joseph's brothers sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And then he was sold again to Potiphar, who was the captain of Pharaoh's army. You know what I'm saying? And a slave in Potiphar's house. But Joseph never said that God, never once cursed God. Never once said, "God, why are you doing this to me? Why me? Every time I turn around, this has happened, this has happened." And I thought I had favor, but wherever he went, regardless of where he found himself, favor followed him. Here he was in the pit, but favor followed him. until you get to a certain level. You know, long as you're down, it won't bother you. Now you're right along with us. But once you start to elevate, the enemy puts his ways and means committed together to bring about your demise. And here, Joseph, in Potiphar's house, he's somebody now. Potiphar has put him over everything in his household. You understand? Joseph, you're second command. Next to me, nobody has any authority except for you, Joseph. All of my household. And one day, Potiphar's out and Joseph's wife, Potiphar's wife, makes a plea for Joseph. Just simply, come lie with me. And Joseph was strong enough to run. Joseph was strong enough to leave the house. Joseph was strong enough, even though he was in the pit. What was that that happened? You're a slave already. But in the master's house, the master's wife tried to seduce. And who's going to believe? Y'all seen that movie, 12 Years a Slave? Huh? Here he was, a slave, but yet God had favor on him anyhow in the midst of his slavery. And now, not only that, he's thrown into prison. Slavery, Potiphar's house, in the prison. But God still had a plan for Joseph. Still, and one text said that Joseph, although he was a slave in Pharaoh's house, he was successful and he prospered. Joseph. Preacher, what you talking about? Some of us look at success as having some things and whatnot. You understand? And we say, we say we're prosperous when we have some stuff. Some tangible thing I can talk to and say, I got this and I've got that to show for. I got a lake house over here. I got a house over there in the mountain. I've got this. I got this car, this truck, this, that. We point to things that say that we're prosperous. We point to money in the bank. We point to the faith that we have financially. We say we're prosperous. But biblically, that's not prosperous. You can be broke and still be prosperous. You say, how can Joseph be prosperous and a slave? How can Joseph be prosperous and right there in the penitentiary in the word say he was prosperous? He was successful. Glad you asked. Whenever there's the presence of God, you're prosperous. Whether you're in the pit and God is with you, you're prosperous. Whether you're a slave in Egypt and God is with you, you're prosperous. Whenever you're broken and don't have no money to pay your bills, and God is in the midst, you're prosperous. Here, you're in prison and God is right there with you. Prosperous. He is prosperous. God is with him. Wherever Joseph found himself, whether it be in the pit, God had favor found him. Whether he was a slave, favor found him. Whether he was in prison, favor found him. And how do you know he had favor? But while he was in prison, here the jailers saw that God was with him. He didn't say that God, he didn't have to wear it on his sleeve. But the jailer saw that God was with Joseph. How does folks see you? Do folks see you when they look at you? Do they see that God is with you? He didn't go and go in with his Bible and say, you know, I'm a man of God and quoting scripture. He saw that God. Do folks see that God is with you? God still has a plan. Every step of the way with Joseph, God was still with him. The presence of God, the favor of God. If you're going through something, that's all right. with you. You understand? If you're going through something, you got favor. If they talk about you, that's all right. You can scandalize my name, but I still got favor. If you can talk about me, I still got favor. You can gossip behind my back, but I still got favor. You can point fingers at me, but I still got favor. You can lie on me, but I still got favor. I might not have money, I might not have a job, but I still got favor. Joseph, it's been 20 years now since Joseph's brothers had thrown him in the pit and died. It's been 20 years now since he had any kind of dealings with his brothers. It's been 20 years now that he's toiled in Egypt as a slave in prison and all that. 20 years have gone by now. And now he sees his brothers and they see him. He recognizes them, but they don't recognize him. How come? Because he's taking on Egyptian mannerisms. He doesn't talk like he used to talk no more. He doesn't behave like he used to behave anymore. He doesn't act like he used to act no more. You understand? As a matter of fact, he's speaking in a different tongue, a different dialect. Yes. So they don't recognize him. Because he's speaking differently. He's not the same, but they are the same. Look at that, the transition. Here, Joseph's brothers remain the same. Same as it was 20 years ago. They still talking the same way. They still acting the same way. But Joseph has transitioned now. And he recognizes them. But they don't recognize him because of the transition. Because can anybody see that you're different than you were 20 years ago? That you're not the same person that you were 5 years ago? That you're not the same person that you was 10 years ago? Can folks see a difference? Are you talking different now? Are you talking like a Christian? Now, can folks, have your dialect, have your language changed now? Since you've had an encounter with the Lord and the Lord has been with you now? After all of these years being in the church, being in Sunday school, being in Bible study, singing in the choir, can anybody see that you're different, that they recognize that you're not the same as you were? Joseph recognized him as being the same. Nothing changed after 20 years. But now, they did not recognize him. His mannerisms, everything has changed. When you go back home, do they say, you still the same? That's your fault. You ain't changed a bit. What do they say about you when you go back home? What they used to say when you go around old friends? They say you talk different now. You're not like you was. Does God have a plan for you? Regardless of what you're going through, what you've been through, what you've seen, and what you might be experiencing right now, God does have a plan for you. God does have a plan for you. Turn to your neighbors and neighbor. God does have a plan for you. Turn to somebody else and say neighbor. God does